Hello, it's me again. Today we're going to react on an interview, a video interview of the owner, the founder and the owner of the largest home video entertainment distribution in Indonesia, the founder and the owner of Disktara. So Disktara was the largest physical media distribution in Indonesia, but it was shut down in 2015. And a lot of people were really sad that Disktara was shutting down a decade ago. So this year is 2025. It marked the 10th year since Disktara closed its door. So when the news about Disney pulling off from Australia, or so many other distributors in the Western countries, they were shutting down in the 2020s, but this has been the reality for Asian countries, especially the nation that I'm living right now in Indonesia, since a decade ago, so since 2015. So the market for physical media was not so good a decade ago, and it's already a reality that we can't see a real brick and mortar store of physical media. And today, well, because not so many people know the reason, and because most of my viewers, they're not Indonesian, I can see from the YouTube analytics, they're from the US and the UK, so they do not know what really happened in other countries and what really happened in my country, especially Indonesia. And what better thing to do than to show you the actual interview of the actual founder of the biggest physical media distributor in Indonesia, which that distribution is called Disktara. It's a massive physical media chain. So I'm going to watch the interview, and I'm going to try to translate and explain what the owner talked about in this video. So let's start the video now. The title of the video is "The owner of the Disktara company is now the owner of this what is it? I don't know. The title blatantly say that the owner of the Disktara is now a farmer, quote unquote. Hydro Farm. Yeah, that is the name of his new company, I think. So this is his own channel. So after not doing business in physical media industry, he closed the Disktara distribution and then created this Hydro Farm company. And so this was taken directly from the company's channel.
Haleluya, shalom para pemirsa dimanapun Anda berada. Bersama saya kembali Leonardo Syamsuri. Kali ini kita bicara di dalam podcast Today's Message, dan kita akan bicara satu topik yang luar biasa. Bersama saya sudah ada narasumber yang dahsyat, Pak Hartawan Wirawan. Apa kabar, Pak?
Baik, Pak.
So this is him, the founder and the owner of the Disktara distribution company. His name is Mr. Wirawan Hartawan, or we say Bapak Wirawan Hartawan in Indonesian. So he's a legend.
Luar biasa. Haleluya. Nah, hari ini kita akan berbincang-bincang mengenai transformasi bisnis. Bagaimana seorang pengusaha seperti Pak Hartawan Wirawan, atau sering dipanggil Pak Wir, itu mengalami transformasi bisnis yang menurut saya sebuah perubahan yang dahsyat, tidak mudah dan nggak gampang memang, dan perlu perjuangan. Nah, hari ini kita akan banyak berdiskusi dengan beliau. Nah, Bapak, saya kalau tidak salah, Bapak sebelumnya kan ada usaha Disktara tuh. Disktara kan bisnisnya dari Sabang sampai Merauke, berurusan dengan musik, ya kan? Dan itu sudah cukup lama. Termasuk saya punya kartu member. Saya pernah beli. Pertanyaan saya, bagaimana rasanya waktu Bapak melepaskan bisnis Disktara itu?
Waduh, itu kalau balik ke sejarah lagi mah kalau bisa jangan terulang ya, Pak ya.
Gitu ya?
Itu satu sedih yang luar biasa, terus terang. Cuman waktu itu kita memutuskan kita stop, nggak produksi, maksudnya tutup toko-toko Disktara itu pada tahun 2012 13-14 itu kita sudah mengalami mesin-mesin yang untuk produksi di pabrik CD-nya itu, pabrik mesinnya sendiri udah pada tutup di luar negeri.
So he's talking about, the interviewer is asking about the Distara chain, and it was a legendary chain, a video store chain, music chain in Indonesia from the 80s. And he was asking what happened back then, why that you decided to close this chain. And Mr. Hartawan explained that back in 2013, so around 2013, 14 and 15, many of his machine, the pressing plant that he owned at the time, the machine, most of them were not working. So most of them were already broken at the time.
Jadi bukan karena bisnisnya nggak jalan ya,
Bukan.
tapi karena perusahaan yang mensupport nggak bisa ya.
Yes, pabrik mesin untuk bikin CD-nya, pabriknya sendiri di Eropa itu 99% sudah tengkurap, udah tiarap semua.
And then the interviewer is asking, so it's not really about the diminishing revenue, and Mr. Hartawan said that it's not actually that. So back then, the major concern for him is that the machine that he got for manufacturing the CDs and the DVDs, the discs, a lot of them are already broken, and the manufacturer of the machine, the companies that were manufacturing the machine and the parts for the machine in Europe, he said, it's his words here, say that 99% of those companies, they were already shutting down at that time. So it's a very difficult decision that, he found it very difficult to continue to create CDs and DVDs because of the pressing plant itself is not sustainable, because it's very difficult to find the parts and the new machine from the factories that were creating the discs, that pressing the discs.
Udah tidak bisa supply kita spare part-nya.
Oke.
Malah kita di pabrik sendiri, mesinnya itu dari yang 9 unit mesin dikanibal. Jadi udah tinggal 3 mesin yang masih berjalan.
Oke.
And he also mentioned that he actually got 9 machines to press CD, to create CD, but because it's very difficult to find the parts, when one machine is broken, he took the parts from other machines, so they ended up only owning 3 machines left from 9 machines. So 9 machines when one's broken, and then they took the parts from the other one that's still working and those things, and they got 9 machines, and now down to only 3. So he really said that this is not sustainable and this is not possible to continue.
Oke.
Nah, dengan ada itu kita berpikir, gimana kita masih mau buka toko lagi? Supply-nya aja akan putus dalam waktu berapa tahun yang akan datang. Sedangkan kalau sewa toko kan itu mesti kontraknya kan 5 tahun ke depan. Jadi mau nggak mau ya udahlah, mumpung udah nggak ada supply spare part-nya, mumpung ini hari kontrak selesai di toko-tokonya sendiri, ya udah kita putusin semua kontrak kita akhir-akhir 2015 kita tutup semuanya.
So after he realized that it's going to be very difficult and it's not sustainable. He saw that in the few years to come, back then in 2014, that the supply chain for the parts would probably not survive. So he said that this is the time to stop everything, to cease production, because they did have a massive stores throughout Indonesia. Indonesia is a very, very huge country. It's very, very huge island countries, compilations of lots of islands, very, very huge country, and he got I think it's thousands of chains throughout the country, and they did not always own the stores, so they just they rent the stores in some supermarket and in some super huge malls, or they got their own buildings, but it was all rent, and the rent they got to pay the rent per 5 years, and 2015 was it was exactly when the rent was due for all of those chains throughout Indonesia. So it's just like once the time is overdue, we're not going to renew the contract for the building. So we're going to just stop. We're not going to continue this anymore. Once the rent is overdue in 2015, when it's done, then we're done. We're not going to rent the place again for the next 5 years because they do not see any potential in the next 5 years.
Reserve sebagian uangnya untuk persiapan bisnis yang akan datang.
Gitu.
Iya.
Tapi menyesal nggak tuh Pak waktu itu?
Aduh, sedih Pak.
Sedih ya?
Sedih
Berarti
sekali.
itu banyak PHK orang dong ya?
Oh iya, kita almost waktu itu ada hampir 1.800 karyawan Pak.
Begitu
di
ya?
PHK.
Di PHK ya?
Iya.
There were 1,800 employees at the time, and they got to lay them off because of this one. So he made this decision because there was still some money left in the company, and then he just wanted to stop all of these and not pursue this anymore and use the reserved money, to build a new company. And the interviewer was asking, what did you feel? And then Mr. Hartawan said that he felt deeply saddened when he got to do that. It was a long part of his life. It was a huge part of his life, a huge journey from the 80s.
Ya sedih banget Pak. Sampai malam-malam negotiate sama karyawan bagaimana, kita kenapa mesti tutupnya. Untung banyak kan karyawan kita yang kerja udah 10 tahun, 15 tahun. Mereka mengerti, mereka maju bersama kita, sekarang tutup bersama kita juga.
Oke.
Banyak yang masih nggak jahat lah, maksudnya mengerti kita punya situasi, malah mau support kita. Ya udah Pak, kalau gitu kita begini aja, kita malah negosiasinya itu secara PHK-nya itu sangat-sangat smooth sekali, banyak disupport oleh mereka.
Right, so this first video, he mostly talk about his new business, his new venture in hydro farm. So basically, farming industry. So we're going to move to the second video.
Halo guys, hari ini saya dapat kesempatan untuk ngobrol dengan Pak Wirawan, founder dari Distara dan Hydro Farm. Halo Pak Wir.
Halo, Pak Salam Pak.
Ini banyak yang cerita-cerita bahwa sebetulnya Pak Wir itu di Distara itu membangun sendiri atau memang udah given sih Pak?
Distara itu dari nol Pak, dari benar-benar pakai modal kapital sendiri, memang pakai fasilitas rukonya orang tua, kita beliin barang, saya menjadi kasir, saya beli stok, benar-benar satu persatu kita yang jualin, kita yang kumpulin CD-nya, kita menjadi SPG. Itu Distara punya sejarah.
Sempat jadi SPG.
Sati SPG. Jadi SPG, layanin customer, juga jadi kasir, Pak. Kita.
Now, in this video, he's explaining about the beginning of this Distara. So he was, doing it from zero, starting from zero. That's what he said. From back in the 80s, he got a small building, a small building store from his parents, and then he used that building for stocking CDs and selling those CDs. So in the beginning, he was selling those items himself.
Yang pegang kasir juga sendiri. Karena waktu pertama-tama di Distara yang kerja kan sedikit sekali Pak. Toko baru buka. Itu paling cuma ada 4 orang. 4 orang saya sambil layanin saking semangatnya. Karena saya hobi musik, hobi denger musik, hobi lagu-lagu. Customer saya jadi wah, layanin bagus, dia beli banyak, ya saya bayarin. Saya langsung pencetin kasirnya berapa. Sampai ke situ, Pak. Istri saya juga bantuin jadi kasir waktu itu.
Jadi klarifikasi ya, bener-bener dari nol ya dulu
Dari
Distara ya.
Nol banget.
Dan akhirnya di puncak kejayaannya Distara itu punya anak buah sampai 1.800.
Yes, 1.870 total.
Berapa tahun tuh Pak dari buka sampai 1.800?
Dari 86 sampai 2015.
The first time
tahun
is
2015. Jadi almost 20 years ya ada ya.
Almost 20 years.
Yes.
Puncak kejayaannya di tahun
1996 sampai 2012.
2012.
He said that the peak
1996
of the
sampai
business was
2012.
from
Kalau boleh tahu
1996
Pak, strateginya
till
gimana sih bisa
2012. So
sampai?
that's quite a long
Mana tahu
period
ada yang
of
kita
time.
pelajarin ya.
Ya.
Dari anak buah di awal-awal kan mungkin di bawah 10 ya Pak?
Ya, di bawah 10 pertama-tama kita start dari nol. Karena waktu kita start di Stara itu image-nya adalah barang CD import. Kita melawan yang namanya kaset. Sudah berpopuler waktu itu. Kaset harganya cuma 1.200. Di Stara jual CD-nya waktu itu 22.000.
So at the time he was starting, his plan was to sell CDs. At that time, cassette tapes was very, very popular, and it was nearly impossible because the price of cassette tapes, as he mentioned, was only 1,700 rupees, while the price of a CD is 22,000, because at the time you could only import the CDs from other countries, and CDs were very, very expensive, and he was trying to sell CDs in the 80s.
Perak, Pak.
Jauh lebih mahal.
Jauh 10 kali lipat lebih mahal. Gimana kita jualannya? Saya harus knock on setiap pabrik-pabrik mobil. Kalau dia keluar mobil mewahnya, kita kasihkan sponsor. You dapat 6 free coupon CD dari Distara, asal mobil ini mobil mewah. Ibaratnya mobil Volvo lah, Mercedes lah, BMW, kasih kupon. Datang ke toko kita, pilih sendiri, pick up 6 pieces of CDs.
So in order to introduce CDs to the people, he went to car dealerships, a lot of car dealerships, and then he said that because at the time only luxury car got CD changers, he said that if your car got CD changers, I will give free coupons for 6 CDs, so your customers, when they purchase the car, they can also got the coupon for CDs, and they can go to our store and pick 6 CDs for free. So that is a very, very smart move, I think.
Biasanya yang orang baru beli mobil kan zaman dulu tuh, wah sound systemnya maunya keren-keren.
Iya.
Udah denger suara CD, ketagihan, datang ke toko kita, dia pilih CD. Selain 6 gratis, dia pilihnya bisa 100 biji, 50 biji.
He explained that the difference in audio quality between cassette tape and CD was just so astounding, so that when people purchased their car for the very first time that got CD changers, and they heard the sound quality of CD after they got the free 6 CDs from Distara, and they listened to the audio quality, the high fidelity of the CD, they decided to buy some more, and that is a very, very brilliant move, I think.
Itu yang membuat kita permulaan Distara mengenalkan CD kepada orang yang the have waktu itu. Nah, dengan mobil-mobil, kalau kita bilang setiap pabrik mobil Mercedes 1 bulan keluar 40 unit. Nah, itu 40 customer itu yang prime market itu yang jadi nasabahnya Distara. That's how we start.
Dan Bapak ngetok sendiri pabrik-pabrik mobil itu?
Yes, saya ngetok sendiri karena berkat, karena sebelumnya kan saya kerja di Citibank. Jadi saya kenal pada bos-bos yang pabrik-pabrik mobil yang besar-besar itu.
So before starting this business, he worked in Citibank, and by working in Citibank, he knows the persons to contact, from those auto dealers. He knows the bosses of the auto dealers, and then he knows which door to knock. So this guy is a legend. So he's I can say that he single-handedly introduced and popularized CD to Indonesians.
Account saya juga di Citibank. Jadi mau nggak mau, bantu dong, saya dagang CD nih, bagaimana kita bisa kerjasama. Terus saya bilang, ya saya cuma sekarang pabrik kalau keluar mobil rollnya kaset tape, nggak ada CD. Kalau lu mau, lu coba aturin dah, bagaimana bisa budget yang sama, dapat CD player. Nah, saya kontak kepada importir CD player, dengan budget yang sama, di switch, jadi masukin CD player.
Oh, this guy is very, very smart. So when he went to those auto dealers, the auto dealer said that our cars would normally just equip with a tape player, a cassette tape player, and we can't really, add CD players in the cars because the cost will be so high. So what he did, he also contacted the CD player importers at that time, and they made a deal so that the price of the CD changers would not be very, very expensive compared to installing the tape player to the car. So he managed to seal the deal between the auto dealers and then the CD player importers for cars, and then for himself or his own company in selling those CDs. So the auto dealers would say, "Oh yeah, this is a good price. We can, add the CD players to the cars instead of a tape player, and then we can move on with this arrangement."
Instead of CD kaset. Nah, dengan masuk CD player kan perlu ada jukeboxnya di belakang tuh, 6 piece of CD. Di Stara lah waktu itu kita yang kasih sponsornya free CD inside the box. Dengan syaratnya you harus datang ke toko kita, pilih those 6 CDs. Dengan dia pilih, biasa orang mata keranjang kan, suka satu lagu, beli kedua, beli ketiga, borongan jadinya.
So this is again smart. So he's installing CD players to cars, and then the auto dealers will say, "Now your car is equipped with CD player. It is more advanced than tape player, and you will have 6 free CDs, but you need to take those free 6 CDs directly to the store, to the Disc Tara store." And he said that once people go to Disc Tara and try to listen to the sound, and they got their first 6 free CDs, they would just buy a lot more CDs, because those cars, he also said that the car is not only equipped with CD player, but also with CD holders. So a place for you to put the CD in the car, it got the slots there. And so he said that we can fill these free slots, 6 free slots, for free from Disc Tara, but you're going to want a lot more to fill up the slot.
That's how we developed our first CD shop.
Wah, keren banget ya strateginya ya. Di puncaknya di Stara, omsetnya berapa tuh Pak?
Aduh, nggak bisa ngomong lah, pokoknya udah MM-an dah, udah puluhan M lah prinsipnya ya.
Saat itu ya?
Saat itu, lumayan lah. Kita bisa jual sampai lumayan banyak, almost 2 juta keping sebulan waktu itu.
Wow.
Dibanding bajakan sih mas.
They were selling 2 million copies of CDs a month. So they got billions of rupees per month.
Masih jauh, but untuk original, harga original yang 10 kali lipat dari bajakan, waktu at that time itu kita udah menguasai cukup 70% sampai 78% market share original.
So this is what I always mention. Disc Tara is the largest physical media distribution in this country. He said that Disc Tara owned 70%, over 70% of the entire physical media market in Indonesia. So it was the largest.
Waktu zaman-zaman jayanya di Stara.
Yang penting cukuplah untuk membayar karyawan 1.800 ya Pak ya?
Iya, amin. Benar.
Jadi cukup banget lah.
Cukup survive lah.
Cukup lah.
Walaupun dunia bajakan kan merajalela ya waktu itu, ya kita mesti fight terus. But dengan evolusi tidak stopnya menginovasi CD baru, musik baru, artis baru, film baru, pokoknya every month kita rilis. Lagi peak-peaknya mungkin 1 bulan kita bisa rilis 180 judul keping CD baru.
So he also mentioned about the piracy market. So even with a massive amount of piracy back then, Disc Tara was still thriving, and they could release 180 titles every month. They invest in new singers. Disc Tara was also a studio, so he also owns a recording studio. So he's also a song producer. So they imported music, and they also produce music themselves.
1 bulan.
Sampai ribuan judul, termasuk lokal judul, international license punya film dan judul dan katalog musik, itu semua kita rilis sampai 180 judul per bulan. Setiap bulan continuous. Supaya orang banyak pilihan, karena kalau dijual di bajakan kan cuma hanya yang top item aja. Kalau yang katalog itulah yang orang mau jadi koleksi. Makanya kita rilis a lot of catalog with quality punya rekaman.
Nah, orang kan banyak nih pembisnis di luar sana. Kalau mereka yang menemukan bisnisnya, mereka as the founder of the business, itu bisnisnya seperti baby mereka. Bahkan jangankan ditutup bisnisnya, bahkan diserahkan ke anaknya aja, mereka terkadang-kadang masih mau turut campur. Nah, Bapak sebagai founder dari Distara, membangun Distara dari awal dan kemudian menjadi sebuah raksasa, akhirnya bisa decide untuk berubah haluan ke hydrofarm. Itu ceritanya gimana tuh?
Waduh, ini satu long story lagi. Memang waktu Distara lagi kita tutup itu semestinya kita sudah bukan lagi rugi-ruginya. Semestinya masih ada break even lah, belum rugi lah. Cuman kita waktu mau putusin tutup itu karena kita lihat dunia musik sudah
So he's stressing again that the decision to close the factory was not because of loss. So the company was not in a huge loss at the time. He said that it's break even, but he started to see the writings on the wall. But it was not because of the complete loss of revenue. It's not that. So at that time it was still profitable, but just really in a sharp decline.
Kan waktunya lagi, udah nggak ada evolusi lagi, udah mentok lah prinsipnya, karena orang udah mulai masuk ke dunia awan-awan, cloud base punya musik, streaming punya musik. Jadi physical CD itu pabrik CD-nya di Eropa aja yang buat mesin CD-nya udah pada bangkrut. Kita punya pabrik sendiri, mesin-mesin spare part-nya udah nggak ada. Jadi kalau kita lihat another 5 years projection ke depan, kita nggak mungkin bisa bikin CD lagi. Walaupun musik mah tetap orang bisa.
So again, he mentioned that at that time it was still profitable, but the machine, the factories that are producing the machine is no longer there. So he said that today was still profitable, but we cannot guarantee that in another 5 years we're going to still be as profitable, because he noticed that people they go to the clouds, they stream the music and they stream their movies, and it's not going to be profitable anymore in the next 5 years. It's not worth it. He said basically that.
Nyanyi ya, pabrik CD-nya kalau udah nggak ada, ngapain kita mesti continue the music shop itu masih distribute. Itulah titik ketemunya kita bahwa ya udah, this baby has to give up. Karena bagaimanapun kita harus cari alternatif yang dunia yang lain untuk kita give up ini CD yang bukan karena kekalahan di market, because of evolusi teknologi yang kita kalah, yang kita nggak bisa ikutin lagi zamannya. Mau nggak mau, we have to close. Memang pahit Pak, itu namanya waktu lagi 2 juta keping sebulan punya CD, punya penjualan ditutup itu, waduh berat banget. But that's the way, you have to face it. Karena kalau kita nggak berani angkat, kita nggak berani taruh, sampai kita tahan terus sampai nanti rugi, utang-utang nggak bisa bayar, itu lebih malu
from
untuk
scratch in the 80s,
untuk
and
keluarga
he
kita.
got to
Lebih
shut it
bagus
down.
bumbung kita bisa tutup, malu sedikit nggak apa-apa, yang penting utang kita nggak utang. Yang penting kita lunasin semua utang, nama kita baik, kita mau berganti ke bisnis yang baru pun orang masih menghargainya.
So this is also another smart move, I think, in business point of view. He was closing the company before it went down. So when the company was still in a good shape, it still has a very good name. It was still profitable. The company does not have a massive debt. So when he wanted to create a new company, it was still very easy at that time. So it was not too late to start something new. He did not want to wait until the company went down, and then that will be very difficult for him to start over. So he was shutting it down while he still can at that time, and he can still use the revenue to create a new business, a new market. So also it was a good publicity for him, and he said that because the image of the company was still very, very good. Where if he shut down the company in the 2020s, it was due to revenue loss, then the headline will be different. Oh, it's the death of physical media because nobody buys this anymore. But in that time, in 2015, it's not that, because he was still, selling 2 million copies of CDs, but he decided to stop because he projects that in the future people will not buy this, and this will be a very, very bad press if we decide to do this later. Better do it now than to regret later. So the press was very different at that time. Distara was closed because the owner wants to pursue something new, something else. It's not because Distara was just a terrible business. So when he wanted to have a business partner, it's not that, that's the owner of Distara who drove the company down and destroyed the company. No, he's the visionary owner of a company that's dare to challenge the norm, and he is brave to start over. That's a very, very good strategy, business strategy. I admire this guy even more after watching this interview. It's sad for collectors like myself, and he also mentioned that it was a very difficult decision for him because it's been a huge part of his life. He created this from scratch. The effort in building this company was just so big, but he had to do that. It's just a matter of I don't know. It must have been a very, very difficult decision, and I think he made the right decision, even though that's very, very difficult. But I'm not a businessman myself, so I do not have the mindset that he has.
Buat anak-anak kita nih, next generation-nya masih bisa pakai nama papanya yang baik ini untuk the new business mereka. Jadi prinsip gitu, ya udah kita tutup, beraniin tutup, malu sedikit nggak apa-apa, dijelekin orang nggak apa-apa, yang penting reputasi kita bersih dan baik. Berat
They
ya.
closed it while they still got
Bagus
the
banget
good
sih.
reputation.
Tapi banyak pertanyaan yang terkadang wondering dari para pembisnis adalah kapan sih kita bisa tahu bahwa it's time to move on.
Itu pertanyaan yang bagus. Itu juga semua berdasarkan namanya business is depend on how your sixth feelingnya, sixth sense. Kalau you ada sixth sense in the business, you memang udah dunianya udah business, you do some research, you do some penelitian di dunia, you baca banyak informasi, then you decide when is the right time. Kalau saya punya decision itu, yes, memang give up in big business is not gampang. Cuman saya udah nggak bisa gerak lagi. If you don't stop now, tunggu sampai udah rugi baru kita stop, udah bangkrut baru kita stop, that's not the right way. Udah gitu aja prinsipnya. Berarti mau nggak mau prepare new business, mesti berani give up, berani naikin, berani turunin. Itu kuncinya saya rasa.
Berani naikin, berani
turunin. Ya. Dan nggak malu.
Nggak malu.
Jangan malu.
Nggak boleh malu ya.
Nggak
Pak?
boleh malu. Mesti harus berani. Udah habis berani, face the reality. Walaupun waktu kita tutup itu di sana banyak sekali Pak artis yang nangis, banyak yang orang pada jelekin kita, pada ngeyel, bilang aduh,
So lots
kenapa
of
sih tutup,
artists
kita
and
artis jadi
singers,
nggak ada
they were
income
very
lagi atau
saddened
gimana.
by this
Saya bilang
because
ya habis gimana,
they couldn't
memang udah bukan
sell their
zamannya lagi.
CDs
Ibaratnya kalau
anymore.
kita ini hari masih hang on, masih cuma nanya mau gengsi-gengsi lagi, udah bukan lah, namanya bisnis. Kalau nggak untung ya tutup, kalau untung ya continue, udah gitu aja. Konsepnya simple kok Pak.
Bahasa bisnis kalau nggak untung ya tutup ya.
Iya.
Cuan dulu ya Pak ya.
Cuan dulu, kalau nggak cuan.
Well, in the end, he said that business is business, this is business, and because I cannot see a future for this business, it's time to shut it down while we still can. We can't wait much longer until the company was really, really bankrupt. So the company was not bankrupt yet at the time, as I mentioned, and he mentioned that it was still very, very profitable, but he just couldn't see the future for it, especially in Indonesia, in this country. Perhaps the way people consume movies and music is very different between Indonesian and Americans. As I can see in my YouTube channel, most of the viewers are from the US and UK and from those countries. Those who really watch my video talking about physical media. It's very rare to see an Indonesian who's really wants to listen to the discussion about physical media. They do not consume movies and physical media the way a lot of you guys from the US or Europe. And when I talk about archiving or preserving physical media, most Indonesians will say that that is bullshit. That is nonsense. So we have a very different outlook on preservation and on the act of collecting physical media and also with quality and 4K and audio file and those things. 99.9999% of Indonesians they do not care. So most Indonesians, they ditch physical media already, practically in 2015 when the Star shut down. That's when practically most Indonesians just stream their entertainment, and that is the reality. So it's a totally different landscape between this country and the US.
Udah give up. Yang penting jangan utang, jangan nggak bayar utang, itu yang bahaya. Karena itu merusak nama nggak bisa dibeli, Pak. Nama very expensive, reputasi very important.
So the name is very expensive. Reputation is key to everything. So he shut down the company before they got any negative press. So the name of Disktara it's legendary. It's a legend. When people think about Disktara, they always remember the good things about Disktara. When I remember Disktara, I always remember everything is just good, sweet memories, going to Disktara, talking to the employee there, picking up new CDs and new movies. It was just fascinating. I got almost no negative memory for Disktara. From business point of view, it's also a very great move. People in the business market will say that this guy is a genius and he's very brave. And it's got a very good name.
Kalau kita ada reputasi, walaupun kita nggak punya uang, masih bisa pinjam sama teman. But kalau kita nggak ada reputasi, kita bagus, jelek, walaupun kita banyak uang, teman pun nggak mau pinjamin uang ke kita.
Again, is that reputation is key. If your reputation is very good, even though you got nothing, you can still ask help from people, and they will gladly help you because you have such a good reputation. But if your reputation is bad, even if you have huge amount of money, people would probably not help you out because you have a very bad reputation.
Karena takut, karena namanya jelek. Nah itu, bagaimana kita tanggung jawab untuk anak-anak kita, next generation-nya, kalau kita mau kasih dia satu red carpet to grow for his next development of evolution of the business, kita harus persiapan dari sekarang. Mungkin itu jalurnya, kalau saya punya pikiran.
So that is it, the video from the founder and the owner of the largest home video physical media distribution in Indonesia, the rise of the home video market, the rise of his company, and when he decided to just shut the company down in 2015. The rest of the video, he talks deeper about his new business in hydro farm. But I think we all got the idea of the history of the company and the reason why we got no more physical media distribution in this country, in Indonesia. So I don't think this is the reflection of the industry as a whole, because clearly a lot of us still love physical media, and there are still a lot of companies out there releasing physical media and thriving, I hope. But it's just a different way people, a different, what is the right word? It's just a different habit of people between Indonesian and Americans. We're very different in the way we consume physical media. And they were shutting down the physical media business before. They were losing profit. It was still profitable, but it's just from the business point of view, they didn't see any future for it, so they shut that down. And I think that is all that I wanted to share with you at this moment. I hope this one gave you, I don't know, a little more insight about the dynamic world of physical media collecting, and that in some countries, in some regions, it's extremely difficult to get physical media. It's a different way to consume media, different kind of distributors, this and that. When people talk about Disney pulling the plug in Australia because Disney, I think, distributed the movies themselves. In Indonesia is a different thing. The studios, they never directly distribute the movies, so they gave the permission to local distributors. That's why some Asian releases, when I know people from US purchase those releases, they say that this looks like a bootleg version of the movie, but it's not bootleg. It's a real one, but it's just not manufactured and distributed by the actual studios. It's manufactured and distributed by a third party, so perhaps the quality check was not as good, but those were legit product. I think that is all. And my camera eyes, I think, is already giving up. So I think, thank you very much for watching. Take care and goodbye.